So, this is the Misfit Artists Drawcast. This one's going to be a little different. We're not so much going to be talking about the drawings themselves, although I will mention those real quick. We're doing fan arts of Crypt TV Monsters, which is a really, really cool online horror short company. I'm going to put links in the description and everything for them, but it's just something I really wanted to do fan art and draw some pre-made monsters. And it's also relevant because we're going to be talking about horror movies, scary animation, scary games, whatever horror is to us, and what we would like to see in it going forward. Just to get a roll call, me, Mecca, as per usual.
And I'm Ace.
And then over here we got...
Hi, I'm JJ.
JJ, I fucked up. I asked her like a million times what you wanted to be called.
Now you know my first name.
Oh no!
It's the stereotypical white girl name.
I'm just... But I'll censor it. I'll be bleep there.
No, you're good. I don't care.
The reason that we have JJ on is a little bit twofold. One, she's a very weird horror individual. You like cult horror movie stuff, right?
Oh, definitely.
So she's relevant that way. Her art is constantly horrifying in a way that I would like to see more of, but I can't describe. So I'll just put an image up there. But also, JJ does drawings for us sometimes. She'll do backgrounds and fun stuff. So whenever there's a good background, it's probably JJ. And she just needs acknowledgement. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to be talking about what we like about horror, what maybe has been done well, or what has been done poorly that we would like to see done better going forward. So JJ, as our guest, would you like to kick off either, like I said, what is done well or what you'd like to see done better in horror?
As I was saying before we started, I saw a Blumhouse trailer for their movie The Island, and they played like this one sound effect. I just hate horror trailers in general. It was just like everything about it is just bad. Horror trailers suck.
So I don't want to turn it into just bad.
Well, no,
so,
I mean,
so go ahead and explain why it's bad, please.
Okay, well, I just think that they're all the same. It's always like the big, like loud, like scare chords, I guess what we would call it, cuts to black. It just, everything seems like it's so cookie cutter, and I'm kind of tired of it.
That's true.
That is true. Yeah. Also, the jump scares, like especially like really, really cheap jump scares, like that. Yeah. No.
I'm with you.
Not been scared by a jump scare since I was like 10.
Video games can do a jump scare really well, though.
Exactly.
Because, well, I guess it always depends on like how much effort is put into it beforehand, how good the experience is overall. But a video game, because you are normally connected, you think of the character as you don't want the character to die because you don't want to die, especially like the first death. Like the first death you have in a game, like the first time you die in Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 1, and because you're so used to normal games where it's like, oh, game over, oh well, that sucked. But then it takes you into like this long, drawn out cutscene of your character being like brutally torn apart.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things where like it's gore used well. I don't feel like it's gore just for the sake of being gory. It's gore because like this is what would be happening, and it is about tearing the self apart.
Back on like the jump scare thing, like I guess like an example that I know because I had personal experience with it in game is Emily Wants to Play, but it's for the VR. Yeah, and it really does like like you actually are immersed into this virtual world. And then, like, knowing that there will be, like, jump scares and, like, knowing that you have to, like, avoid, like, certain situations, it kind of plays up on, like, my anxiety a little bit. And I feel like that has done well.
Yeah,
for me,
definitely.
For me, at least.
And again, it comes back to, like, how immersed you are. Because I played a game, actually, that was a student game here at CCAD. Someone for their capstone project is doing a game on the Oculus Rift that we have here on campus, and it's only a half-done game. So like, there's like, it's really cool like what they were able to do and being in something that one of my friends made.
Yeah.
But all the characters, like all the monsters, they're not textured. It's just naked gray men walking around a campfire. But even so, like I was in a room with all these other people. But it was scary because it was like, a very uncanny feeling of, oh, I am seeing this from a normal perspective. However, in a normal perspective, I can crouch normally. Yeah. They didn't have the crouch worked out. Oh. So not being, like, knowing I was trying to crouch and do stuff, like, because that's one of the things. Also, like, play with the strengths that your medium has, but also play to the weaknesses, too. Mm. Like, the fact that a movie screen is, like, this flat image, you don't know what's, like, to the left of the screen. Play with that more.
To counter with that, the Brookhaven experiment, which is also a VR game, it also like plays with that well, because you have like zombies coming at you from all different sides, maybe even behind you. Mm-hmm. So I think with that it works well. Yeah.
One of the things on like, so going back to like what we would like to see more of, I went to see. This is going to sound going off track for a little bit. It's going to come right back to it, I promise. I went to go see The Joker recently. Oh, yeah? Which is a great movie all on its own. And I'm thinking you can call it horror in a weird way. But one of the previews for it was a new movie associated with Guillermo del Toro. I can't remember what exactly it was called, but it's based off of the the Goldilocks tale. Three Bears, yeah. And everything about that trailer I loved. I'm going to try to, like, remember as much of it as I can. But, like, one of the biggest things is just anything with Guillermo del Toro. Like, if we're talking about just what we want to see more of, I want Guillermo del Toro to do more movies. Oh, yeah. Just in general. But, like, it showed, it didn't just rely, it showed very clear that there was going to be a lot of darkness in the movie to hide the monster. But it wasn't a cop-out, because obviously anything with Guillermo del Toro was going to have a budget. Yeah. But the way that what they chose what to show on the monster, you know, there was claws reaching out. You would see like an antler come out. Because that's one of the weird things. I didn't think it was going to be a Three Bears thing, because I saw antlers and it seemed very much like they were going off that Wendigo mythology, which has been very prevalent lately. Oh, yeah. I think that there's people can make some cultural logics that we've been using it. The whole, we're trying to like, you know, inspire cultural diversity. But I think the biggest thing is just that Until Dawn used the Wendigos and it was fairly successful. So everyone's like, hey, here's a new monster. Let's go. Go ahead and do that. But the trailer was awesome. I can't remember the score very well. But it used a child as the protagonist and used that kind of unreliable narrator well. It had me intrigued the entire time. Like, I didn't know exactly what was going on. I knew there was a monster, but until the end, I didn't know what the monster was, what was actually being based on. It was cutting between the kids' like normal life, what seemed like the first act stuff, and the third act stuff well, so it wasn't just, you know, those screaming things going all the time. The kid was obviously a character. It wasn't just, oh, you're going to feel bad because it's a child. It's like, this kid apparently lost his parents or something. I don't actually know everything that happened. The story is not revealed to me what's going on. All I know is that there's a hungry dad that might eat the child, it seems like.
I have not seen the trailer yet, but do you think it'll be in the same spirit of Pan's Labyrinth?
I don't. So I guess tell me what you think the spirit of Pan's Labyrinth is. Because it's a very artsy movie. And I feel like different people can get different feelings out of it very easily.
Well, I mean, like, in the terms of, like, you know, there's a child main character and a lot of, like, I guess, call it reality shifting. And
I think
it's very fairy tale.
Yeah, I think in that sense, yes. It's probably going to be a lot more gory than Pan's Labyrinth. But, yeah, and I guess one of the other things is, like, how... Like I said, the reality shifting, I think, is one of the big things. Yeah. Excuse me. We also made floats. So if there's more burping or more slurping sounds, that's what it is. But I think so, yes, in the sense of, like I said, the reality shifting, that word really buzzed off on me. Because Pan's Labyrinth was kind of split in half between daytime, what was going on with her mom and her stepdad in real life. Yeah. Or, quotes, real life. And then at night, she went and ventured into this fantasy world. And one of the things in the trailer that, again, seems really, really interesting, I don't know how it's actually going to be edited in the movie, how much of this is just first half, second half. But if they do it the same way they did Pan's Labyrinth, it might be interesting because it looks like even though his dad may or may not be turning into like a Wendigo type monster, he's still going to school. And he's like, he goes to school in the day and then comes back to this horrifying reality at night is what it looked like. And that seems, if that's not what it is, again, it's a trailer where a lot of things could be happening. It's not misleading, but it's letting me come up with ideas for myself. And then I get to go to the movie and see it and be like, oh, wow, I am disappointed or I am glad, or like my expectations were either met, surpassed, or not met, and I'm okay with my expectations not being met as long as you're doing something. Because I think that's why trailers are so just showing you everything, because you do want to go to the movie theater and you want your expectations to be met, and if you try to hide a lot of things, you run the gamut of the audience came up with a better movie than we made. Like that would suck.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as long as you're doing your movie and you're showing the important parts, again, it's like putting Guillermo del Toro. He has a style, and I don't think anyone can pay him enough money not to do his style.
Yeah.
I saw enough of the monster to know that it's not cheap.
Oh.
I don't always like kid actors.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
Some of them are really, really annoying. This kid doesn't seem annoying. And if that's the thing, if they just chose the best scenes of the kid, but it turns out this kid is a prick, then I'll be a little agitated. But, again, like, I don't know the full story. I don't need to know the full story. I just want to see the movie now.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars, they don't show me all the cool action bits of Star Wars, because now I'm just like, okay,
Well, it's not just, like, all the cool action bits. It's, like, near spoiler territory, too. Like,
Which, to an extent, I guess is kind of okay with, like, but, like, I feel like a lot of the trailers, they kept trying to make it seem like Rey was going to turn dark side, and then they never did. That's just blatantly misleading the audience, kind of, which I guess is a way to build hype. It's not downright wrong morally or ethically or anything, but it's definitely, again, it's not what I was expecting to see out of the movie now.
I think there's a lot of problems with that movie.
Yeah, but this is a horror podcast.
Yeah.
Star Wars might be scary on some levels, but we're not going to get into it too much. And one of the other things, like, again, so JJ, you haven't actually seen anything from Crypt TV yet, have you?
No.
So it is it's a very cool thing. You'd probably get a kick out of it for a few different reasons. For one, they make, I think, they were doing like 2 or 3 YouTube uploads a week.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't like, I mean, they're making short films. They're not just like, it's not 2 or 3 like vlogs a week or anything. They're creating creatures like what I'm drawing over here. It's this monster called the Birch, which you've probably actually seen pop up on Facebook or some ad somewhere. It was very, very successful. It's this tree monster that is it's the archetype of protecting, like a monster protecting this weaker character and trying to bring like kind of a twisted form of justice. But the design is artistically just really, really awesome. For one, there's twigs and spikes coming up everywhere, which I like spiky designs. It does have kind of a female silhouette. I've exaggerated it in the speed draw here because I'm a cartoony person. I need to get those shapes in. But the head design is like where it really shines. It's like the skeletal mouth. I'm zoomed down from it so you're not going to be able to see it. But it has like a skeletal mouth and then like this twisted tree thing up here and then long dangly things. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so one of the things that Crypt TV says they are is they claim to be like a Marvel for monsters. This is the same kind of like interconnected Marvel universe. They're trying to do the same thing with all their different monsters.
Ooh.
It's a really cool design, and they do horror right in the sense of like they can scare you in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So if you just want that classic slashery, kind of like what Evil Dead was, the same reason that you would go to see Evil Dead, I feel like.
Uh-huh.
You go there because you want a bit of a shock. You want it to be a little campy and goofy. Crypt TV can get you to go from the gamut of funny, scared, confused in the amount of time of a YouTube video. But if you want more deeper story, then they have those like big, long, drawn out series that could be that they then edit together to be like hour-long movies.
Yeah.
So the question I'm kind of going to get to here, I guess, is because one of the things I like about Crypt TV is it gives you both. If you had to choose, do you want your horror to be campy, goofy, and more? It's like, let me think about it a little bit. Say it right. I'm also trying not to leave dead air though. So, would you want campy, goofy horror? Would you want straight up scary all the way? Or do you want an intriguing story that I guess you could call more psychological horror, but more just the idea that it's a classical hero's arc, you get to learn about the backstory of these creatures? What do you think, if you had to choose one, if directors came out and if writers and directors came out and said, we can only do one of these, what do you think would make better horror going forward?
I personally always like psychological horror, like Jacob's Ladder and, the thing that spawns off of it, like Silent Hill.
Yeah. And you play Silent Hill still.
I personally think psychological horror is more effective towards me because I'm a little bit...
It's more scarier, like, in your head, and then it just, like, affects you on a really deep level.
Yeah,
like...
I'm a little desensitized towards a lot of horror things.
Yeah.
I think I mean, as much as I enjoyed The Exorcist, I just had a blast watching it. I kind of just... I wasn't very scared by it, I guess, even though it's a little dated. I still love it. It was a great movie.
It's really interesting that you said that. Like, I feel like that's kind of like two different ideas, though. They're almost you say that you like psychological horror, but The Exorcist gets a little old to you.
Well, no, it didn't get old to me.
Or like that
it was just like I didn't find. I guess it's probably because I don't have a belief in demons that didn't scare me.
I was gonna say like my dad grew up very Baptist, and he's so. Very, very Christian household. So he was very scared when that movie came out. Because for one, they hadn't seen anything like that. And also it played on something that he had, he's always heard about. But this was the first time like it was ever portrayed. But also I feel like even if you don't believe in them, the idea that, like a lot of the ideas that movie puts forward, I feel like a lot of its scares were still very ideological, less than slashery. Like, it wasn't the peas throwing up on the guy that scared anyone. That one scene with the kid crawling down the stairs, spider walk. That's very scary. Not like one that doesn't seem possible. Also, like it felt uncanny too. I didn't feel like it went for cheap scares by any stretch of the imagination.
Not. It was wonderful. It was probably one of the finest horror movies ever made. I just think maybe. It's harder for me to suspend my disbelief because I was so enamored by all the effects.
Yeah.
And I think it gets harder these days when there's less psychological horrors being made.
Yeah.
Because, well, I have always admired the practical effects, but now a lot of movies are leaning towards more CG, which is not a bad thing in itself.
Yeah.
But also it gets not to interrupt you, but it also gets cheap.
Yeah, sometimes it looks cheap, and
so
I quite enjoy The Exorcist because it was it probably was the scariest movie ever made at the time.
Yes,
and I just wish that maybe it went more towards the little quiet moments in those movies.
Yeah,
I wish that influenced more. Than the big scares.
Yeah.
Because that was the scarier parts for me when it was quiet.
Yeah, and I think I do agree with you for the most part. More psychological, also, and more story in general. Give us a reason to be scared for these characters, because we're not going to give a crap when, girl number 3 dies. We're going to give a crap when Elizabeth, the girl who D&D role played as a raccoon, was our friend for 2 years. When she gets torn apart, we're going to care then.
Yeah.
As far as the effects and how you visually show it, because movies, games, they are all gonna need those visual aspects. I think one of the biggest problems people think that it's one way or the other that you have to do effects.
Yeah.
There's great examples of things being meshed together. Kiara and Ace, we watch Dead Meat all the time.
Yes.
Kill Counts. And James on the Kill Count recently did an episode on Cabin in the Woods. Which, have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
No.
You get a kick out of it. So, excuse me. It's not very much of a I wouldn't say it's a psychological horror in the case of like it puts out an idea to scare you, but there are.
But it is sort of like a deconstruction in a way.
Yeah, it's very meta,
but not like camp meta. Campy meta.
So you've only seen the kill count. I've seen the movie itself. It definitely gets to a level of meta. Like, there are points where you can be like, oh, this movie's just being meta because it thinks that's cool and edgy. Also, keep in mind, this thing was meta before it was cool to be meta.
Yeah.
So the whole premise of the movie is that, these kids go to a cabin in the woods, and they are onslaughted by horror movie monsters. But you find out that this whole situation is being controlled by a crew underground, because apparently the reason that all these classic horror movie tropes exist is because there are old gods sleeping under the earth watching us, and these are sacrifices. So this is why every horror movie plays out almost the same, because it's meeting the expectations of the sacrifice. So the harlot always has to be the first to die, followed by the jock. Not the jock. It was followed by
the party dude,
the jester, then the athlete / warrior, and then the virgin is optional, but she has to be the last to die if she dies. But so there's this whole thing there, and there are a few psychological elements. Like thought. The whole point of it was that thought was put into this movie.
Yeah.
It was not made just with the idea of, let's go ahead and poke jokes at horror. It poked jokes at horror, for one, because it was made by horror fans who cared about it. But one of the things that Kill Count goes into detail on, I'm going to get to the effects part here in a minute, but they go into detail on how the people that made the movie, some of the crew was actually children to people that worked on the atomic bombs. So, yeah, really weird childhood to think about, right? Like, think about, like, that being your parent growing up as, like, you become morally aware. Like, that's just a weird life to live, I feel like. But they talked about how they tried to make the lab feel like those sites, where it was this very bland room. We always think, like, if you think of, like, a doomsday room, you think of, like, buttons, switches, vials. Like, it's very obviously scary, spiky, and everything. It's just a room with some computers and people in bow ties going to the office doing their job.
Yeah.
They can't think about what they're doing too much, because if they do, they're probably going to lose it. This is just their job. They're going there and collecting a paycheck. And that's how they describe seeing people at the nuclear test sites. Is these people who are constructing the most dangerous thing on the planet, and then they go home and have a beer together. So they made that office the same way. And when you think about that, it is like, that's why I say it's not exactly a psychological horror movie, but it definitely has that aspect to dive into. But the thing with the effects is they made as much as they could practical. Yeah. They made almost all the monsters in the movie. They made suits for it. There was a mermaid with a blood pump hole that they literally had like a 10-gallon blood cannon shooting out the back of this costume. It's everything you're thinking is probably.
Yeah.
But there were parts that they needed to use CGI for. There's a scene where all these monsters are in these containment cubes, and they had like bigger monsters, smaller monsters. So some of them they just shot them in these cubes, but others they put in green screens to scale them down, chroma key them in. If there were holes in the suits they couldn't patch, they would go ahead and CGI that in. Mm-hmm. CGI, it has a very, very good place.
Definitely.
And sometimes they can be all CGI and still look amazing. I mean, I'm an animator. Obviously, if I worked in movies, it would probably be concept art or digital. And it's all, again, it all comes down to how much care is put into it, giving a crap about it. So, and that is always going to be the biggest thing in any movie genre going forward, is just care about what you're making. One of the things that agitates me lately is, because I'm a junior this year, I'm going to be a senior next year. Hearing movie budgets makes me mad.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how much did Marvel Infinity War cost? $2 billion or something crazy? And I'm like, and no one has a job for Sean. There's, no one wants to pay me to be just do a couple doodles. I don't need the $5,000 paycheck. Just pay me $8 an hour to draw my pictures, man.
I think a lot of it goes into advertising is what I'm assuming.
It's a lot. I think the biggest ones is advertising is a big chunk. Your talent is a big chunk of it. Yeah. Because I don't know exactly where it all goes either. I mean, there is a lot of money that goes into just getting the equipment there. It's like the cameras that they use in live action film are so expensive. I think most of the time they don't own those cameras. They rent them from the studio lot. Yeah. You know, Disney might own their own cameras because, I mean, what doesn't Disney own anyway? They own us. But, like, it is expensive. Like, getting a good camera, like, that's one of the things that's always on my Amazon shopping list is buying a 4K camera. I won't buy one for a while, even though I want to upgrade and stay current, because that's, $200. Just like the little camcorder version is $200. Yeah. Just the Steadicam, the little thing that makes the shot smoother. If you want a good one of those, that's $200. Like, just to get one camera, one good mic, one good Steadicam system, and then, the computer to edit everything on, that's probably $10,000 right there easy. Yeah. So, like, yeah, it gets up there fast, but then you see what, again, Ace, what the comics you make in one semester, JJ, what you can draw in just a couple minutes. Like the turnip comic you made. You made that in just in your downtime, for crying out loud. I've made animated short films in a month. Yeah. They're not great, but that's a month of time. We can do crazy stuff and we're not getting paid. Yeah. We're actually paying to make these. Yeah.
Or at least paying to hone the craft. Yeah. Hone in our craft.
But and the only payment we get is the Adobe subscription for discounted. And even that we don't get for free anymore.
Once I graduate, that's going out the window. I'll buy Clip Studio.
If Misfit takes off, I'll try to get a business subscription for the three of us. But that's the thing. You can make them. I think that a lot of student horror films, a lot of things on, again, Crypt TV. There's another one I'm thinking of that I can't think of right now. It's a sci-fi. Oak Studios. They do a lot more digital. But they make these really cool sci-fi movies, and it's all this crazy stuff. It's very spectacle-driven, like Junji Ito comics are, where it's here's a crazy thing that only some crazy person's imagination can come up with, but also the story behind it. But that's a team of a very relatively small amount of people, not getting a lot of money. I think they do Kickstarter stuff. Crypt TV, they probably make a decent amount of money now, but even that, it's these are people that don't have a tenth of what major studios do. And they're making things that are way better than Blumhouse.
I don't want to diss too much on Blumhouse.
I'll just a little bit on Blum. They're getting better lately. Oh, yeah, but there was definitely, remaking every horror movie ever. I do like the idea of Friday the 13th being actually rebooted and actually going through all the Jason Voorhees stuff again. That would be fun. I would like to see that.
You would want to see Jason in space again.
Yes, I want to see Jason go to space again. But and that's the thing. Those movies, they were trashy, they were goofy, but they were still fun. I wouldn't say that. I don't know how to describe Friday the 13th episode 10. I don't feel quite I've taken professional art classes. I feel like I shouldn't say it's a good movie, but for crying out loud, I enjoyed myself watching it. Yeah. Goes to New York, which is a blatant lie. It's been brought to my attention now. He spends less than half the time of that movie in New York. He's on the boat for most of the time, but that was still a fun movie. Yeah. So what makes a good movie is hard to say. But if it was up to better effects, and again, better being more money put into it, because more money, more technology doesn't always mean a better effect.
Oh no, definitely not. I feel really bad for. Okay, I know that I've heard some stuff that I don't think special effects studios are quite treated as well as they should be.
Yeah. Oh no.
They are often go bankrupt after big films because they have to make these last minute changes and they don't have enough time and they have to go put all this money and effort into it and then they just go bankrupt and then when they get mentioned at the Oscars they cut their mic. Oops. I hate the Oscars.
I mean, anything that gets too big is always... It's that I was saying, like, absolute power will corrupt absolutely. Yeah. It's sadly true even in, like, entertainment. Like, we can... Like, even... Rooster Teeth, I feel like, has that a little bit. Because we've been watching Red vs. Blue a lot. I love it. I still enjoy Rooster Teeth. I believe they're still a good company. But, you know, I don't think their managers there know everyone anymore. They're big. They now have to make a lot of decisions. Like, I don't think they're bad people or anything, but they have to make studio decisions now.
Yeah, I found out that, like, the president of Rooster Teeth, like, had to step down. That's all I've heard, but
yeah,
not gonna.
And again, I don't want to make it sound like I don't like Rooster Teeth anymore. I still love it. I still love Ruby, but you can tell when it went from a few guys in the garage to, hey, we own a company.
Yeah,
and I'm happy that they were able to make that. And I'm happy if anything can do that, but you need to make sure that you still care. People can definitely go and spend, 23-hour days on a project if they want to, but they should never be forced to, is the thing. And also, I mean, credit just going to people. Yeah. And it's a shame of what parts of the industry get screwed. Because no part should get screwed if you make something that you care about.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you think a little bit of a free-for-all is... what do you think you'd want to see more of in general?
I like style in movies. I have watched some old, like, Italian horror movies. I believe they're called Giallo films.
You sound so artsy when you talk about horror movies. It's like you're the most art student you ever sound. Normally you walk around campus just like, hello, I'm turnip, I do this. Oh, I will hit you with truck now. But when it comes to, like, horror movies, you are just like, I like the foreign films.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's great. It is.
I actually almost jumped on a bus because I almost jumped on a bus at midnight to go see a movie because it was inspired by I'm going to say, probably going to say it wrong, Argento Films, which are the Italian Giallo films.
No, I think you said that right.
And it was called In Fabric. Okay. I almost jumped on the bus to get it, but then I just waited.
You are a young... You are a young college woman, and you live in a fairly... You're in a downtown area, and you were going to hop on a bus at midnight.
I decided against it, though, because
how long did you... You almost started a horror movie. You were almost a horror movie right there.
Oh my god. I was so curious about the movie.
So, how close did you get to going on the bus? Like, because I know sometimes I will make decisions to stop doing things or to do something at the door. Like, I'll get changed, I'll get out of my dorm, take the elevator door is open, I'm like, this is a dumb idea, and I'll go back up. Which, again, if we end our horror movies before they begin. So, like, how close did you get?
I was dressed, had my bag, I looked at my phone, I was like, okay, so... If I go now, I can catch the bus, and then I can just Uber back. And then I thought about it. I looked at when, like, a release date would be so I could just watch it online.
Yeah.
And then I waited. Then I watched it, and then it was okay. I enjoyed it.
It wasn't going to be worth the midnight bus trip?
Probably not risking my life, no. But probably not getting my mom mad at me again for going at night on a bus to go watch a movie by myself.
Oh, JJ, you worry me. The women at the school worry me so much. I worry about all your safeties.
Well, I wasn't going to ask anybody to come with me to this art film.
JJ, whenever, if the minute that crosses your mind, if you think you're going to go, text me and see if I'm awake. Because I will go with you. One, that sounds like a fun adventure.
Well, yeah.
Like, I've done stuff like that, but again, I'm not a young female. I'm a husky.
But I look like a potato, so it's alright.
Shut up, JJ. Okay. We're not getting into this conversation.
No, you look like a turnip.
Yeah, that's true.
But I like your answer, though. That you want style going forward. And I think most people would agree with you. That definitely makes them better than now. Because, again, it comes kind of down to the people that are actually making the movies don't make the decisions. They have, you have the shot script. You can the director can make some decisions on the fly. But for the most part, it is being limited by people signing you paychecks, which they're paying for it. Yeah, they can do whatever they want. But you can tell when a movie is just following a formula and when it is creative, when they're trying something. They don't always have to try the biggest, newest thing. Like, that's something all our teachers tell us all the time here is nothing's new. You're not going to come up with something no one's done before, but you can make it a little different. You can put your spin on it. And I've come up with some ideas that I do believe no one has done before, or at least no one's been successful with before.
Right.
And I'll go and I'll start writing it out more. I'm like, I see why no one's done this before. If it's such an original idea that it legitimately is brand new, the craziest thing to be done in a long time, it probably doesn't need to be done. Sometimes there are exceptions to the rules. Pan's Labyrinth, very original. I would say nothing had been done like that before it was made.
Well, it still sticks to like a story structure. Like there is I can't remember the name of the book, but it's like a book that he worked on for years, and it's all about how there's like so many stories that you tell. Like there's the. Like,
I think they actually recently released that book.
I think it came out.
No,
I don't think it's over 10 years.
No, they re-released it.
Re-released it.
Yeah,
really?
I believe I might be wrong, but it was an art book for Pan's Labyrinth or it was like the book that.
Oh, you mean okay? I see what.
Or
you're talking
it was the
about.
book that because it was a storybook with new original art from Guillermo del Toro.
Oh,
but it was like parts that were based on Pan's Labyrinth. I can't remember all the details, but I remember seeing something about that. And I remember seeing it because it might have even been with my dad or something. I just turned over and I was like, I kind of want that. And then you see the price because it's, again,
it's pricey.
Yeah, it's a hardcover, beautifully done. It's like, I can't afford
this.
Well, if you do your taxes, I've been told by one of my teachers that you can write that off as research. He told me that.
Well,
the more you know.
That was the most dead air in the whole podcast. This is always, huh? Oh, shit. But no, like I said, I think that you are right. Just a style. It doesn't have to be a new style even. Like if you're making a movie and you're doing the classic, we don't need this style anymore, but the classic retro 80s.
Oh, yeah?
It's the first one I thought. We don't need any more horror movies in retros 80s or 70s, guys.
Don't worry, we're getting out of the 30-year cycle. We're going in the 90s.
Okay. You know what? I'm okay with that.
I'm excited.
The 90s are funky in a really odd, uncanny way, especially for us because like we
were like born at like the end.
Yeah, we were born at the end. You were born at the beginning of the 2000s, though, right?
Oh yeah,
you're a naughties baby.
I had two older siblings that I got like all my toys and shows from.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we are very aware of this era.
Yeah,
we existed in part of it. But it's not ours, and that makes it so weird.
We're kind of like stuck between people are a little bit younger than us.
We're a bastard generation.
Yeah. I always say that
lived through like 2 decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I feel like it's like later, like the later 2000s and 2010s, that was like our cool era.
Really? I always thought like mid-2000s. That's what I was thinking.
Like mid-2000s culturally was weird and funky.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was a lot of weird cartoon stuff that I remember.
Oh, definitely.
But like for the world larger, 2010s was a crazy thing of just like technology that was coming out. Like I feel like that's when like it re-sparked the scariness of AI. Because I mean we're really making progress there. Space travel, even though we haven't like actually gone, like we haven't put humans in space and done crazy stuff there for a while, but we can still like send robots across the galaxy. 2010s is when we got the picture of the black hole.
Right.
We have like it's a really crazy thing for what can be done in general. Like they made a real Terminator robot, I think even.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not the super crazy punching through walls, everything that we want. Well, no, we don't want that, but it was a video I remember that was like just a robot. I think it was made in either Russia or Germany because everything scary in military is made in Russia. But it was literally a dual pistol wielding robot, and he can like walk around and do his own stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh! But like that's what I think. Like, and it's gonna be really weird when we get to the point where like we're making movies about the 2010s,
right?
When that's our flashback retro era.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go by the, I'm gonna say it again, 30-year cycle, which it's like a pop culture thing, where if you can look back at it and you see it a lot happen. What is it like? A lot of 50s style stuff was coming back into style in the 80s.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I really like to think about it. But, and then if you think back into the 2000s, there was a lot of I remember a lot of peace sign stuff that was very reminiscent of the 70s.
Yeah, I think that's why like the 80s and I always got the 80s and 70s mixed up, and maybe that's why. Because they were always, like, bringing stuff back from each other's eras.
Yeah.
Like, those two are just melded into one big mess in my head, though. But it does bring up, because, the speed draw is over, so this means I'm going to have to edit some fun stuff here and make it shorter. But I enjoy the conversation. But one of the things I think I would really like to see is, excuse me, I'm going to burp. Excuse me. Breaking away from that stuff in a way. Like, not like, oh, anything that's preconceived is bad. Tear down the system. Fuck the man. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But those are one of the rules that you learn. And it's really amazing that you, like, have that off the top of your head, that there's a 30-year cycle of our inspiration. But don't use that as, like, the strictest thing. Like, just because Stranger Things is successful doesn't mean we need a whole bunch of 80s horror movies. Just because, one video game is really successful with the Wendigo, we don't all need to be using the Wendigo.
Oh, no.
Right.
If you have an idea and that's what the idea is, you go for it. If that's a style that you were thinking of, rock and roll. But don't be so constricted to what people like, because it's just like when you think about your demographic too much, and you're making something you think they'll like, it just gets into this really weird, messy cycle.
Yeah. And
it's ironic that, a YouTube channel that only has like 12 subscribers is saying this, because obviously we don't know what we're doing. But I think if we do get successful, it will be because we're not looking at a diagram of what people want to see. And obviously, one of the things that we always hear about is like our friend will tell us is that, oh, well, you need to be uploading, more. You need to get that weekly upload because that's when YouTube will push you and, do this to get these views. It's like,
algorithm.
And I get it. It is a real thing to look at. But for one, we are college students. We don't have all that time.
Right.
And I would rather, you can do it for fun because you're still a sophomore. I'm a junior.
We're both juniors. We have a lot more stress.
Our life is ending soon.
Our college life.
But even without that in there, it's just the fact that I don't want to waste time making content that is just for an algorithm.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste time making something because there's a survey that says it will be liked more. And that's one of the things, like, Ace is really good with the whole meme culture thing. And that is a culture.
That is a culture, and it gets to, like, it gets into, like, the really weird subculture, like,
but it's so
you don't want to go into.
Vain sometimes. Like, if you are making a whole YouTube video based on memes is one of the most hated things that will pop up in my feed. When, like, I guess PewDiePie was doing like a meme news show or something, like memes.
Meme review.
That's dumb. I mean, he's successful, but I hate that he's successful with it. But
remember, he got his start playing horror games like Amnesia and all that good stuff.
I like that stuff, but it's just one of those things. Again, you don't when you think about when you try to make it that for that meta of a reason, it's a self-destructive thing. Almost. And I think movies can fall apart like that too. Again, kind of not horror, but I feel like horror fans might appreciate Mortal Kombat, for example. Mm-hmm. The Mortal Kombat 11 game, I like it. The gameplay is great. The graphics are amazing. I love all the martial arts choreography, obviously, because I'm into that. I love the monster designs. Baraka looks awesome. But it was very it feels like the story was made very pandering, and like all the story modes kind of have to be made in a way where they can bring back old characters, because everyone, even though Shao Kahn died some games ago, I guess, he's still a very popular character. People still want to play as the old king of Outworld. You know, people like classic Scorpion, so they have to find a way to bring it back. So they did this whole time travel storyline, which again, time travel, sometimes I like Doctor Who, but it's very campy time travel, so I can deal with it. It's like, oh, we're going to go to the 1860s for the sake of going to the 1860s. But they did it in a way where it's like, we can bring back all these old characters. Half the game is just them kind of stroking their own ego. Same with like the Michael Myers, the Halloween series.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The first, I like Season of the Witch. Season of the Witch is fun. Like the first
of
three
course you would.
It's a really, well, it's just one thing is I like masks. I think it, like, they could have incorporated the story or everything, but the first chunk of those movies is really fun and just good, fun horror. I haven't seen the new one as a whole yet, but I've seen a lot of bits of it. And I think I'll have the same complaint where it's a good movie. There's great camera work, cinematography. It was obviously made by people that cared, but it's so bogged down in itself. Like, half the big deal about that movie is just that they changed some of the continuity. That's one of the biggest things that I got its hype from. It's constantly making its own in-jokes. When you make jokes about yourself so much, it just feels like the first 3 are cool. The 10th in-joke about yourself is just kind of bizarre, you know?
Oh, like Disney does, you know?
Yeah,
and they're
Disney
always like, with their princess movies, like, just own it. It was the past, it's okay. You can do that.
I mean, if you can still make a good princess movie, go ahead and make a good princess movie. But don't... And for a while, they were doing a cool thing where it's like, hey, let's deconstruct what a princess has to be. And
then they kept doing it.
Yeah, but again, they kept doing it.
And they got old, and then it became, like, pandering and stupid,
and then it kind of gets, like, associated with whatever agenda.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I would kill this. This is what we should have ended on. The thing I want to see in horror in the future, horror to come, a Disney princess slasher.
I'll be up for that.
It can be.
I would pay
for that. It can be with the current princesses, or they can introduce a princess into a zombie universe or whatever, or just like anything where it can be a princess in a castle with a slasher. I will be the slasher for that movie. Guys,
no. Zombie Disney princess, no musicals. I would pay to see that.
Guys, my website is SeanMakesStuff.weebly.com. I will do anything for this movie. So yeah, that's where we'll wrap it up at. Is that, and it was a little vague. We didn't spend the whole time on like future horror, but it was a good conversation. I thank you all for coming here and doing this with me.
I had fun.
Yeah. JJ,
yeah, thanks for having me.
What's stuff that people can find you at? Can they hire you? Do you just want them to look at your Instagram?
During school, I don't know how much I can do in terms of hiring, but I do have an Instagram. It's at TurnipJabber. I've got.
It's a great new name.
Yeah, thank you. I've thought about it for like 10 minutes, and then I picked it. I try to post often. It's a little hard when you're. I'm running a club now, so it's tough. But you know. I like to post things. It's good fun for me for now.
I'll throw a link up there for you. Anything else you can think of, you can just send me and I'll edit and post.
May I add that during this entire time that we are recording this, I've been
so let me see what you've done so far.
Fixated on her art.
So can I scan this and put it into the video? That can be the end screen from where we've been talking so far.
My mindless doodles, sure.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What were you thinking, like, when you were doing this? Like, what was your
Cage Man?
Cage Man.
Before I put it up, I want that sound bite of what were you thinking? Cage Man. I like the teeth, like the way you draw.
I didn't know what to do. I started with a little head, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna put a cage, and then there was like, yeah, I mean, they can't see. Oh, well, they will. It's kind of weird to say it, but I didn't know what I was doing.
I think we know you didn't know what you were doing.
And then I kind of just like, I drew the cage and I was like, cool.
What are the wormies?
Little oozing worms.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I guess that's the other question. Is like, which way is upside down? Like, I thought it was like this. Is this how it is, or am I supposed to be looking at it?
Oh, it's up to you.
What do you mean it's up to... JJ, don't say it's up to me.
That is what I freaking love about, like, your stuff. It's just like, it's up to you. Like, interpret it how do you want. Like,
haven't you been taking the classes? The teachers don't want you to say that during critique.
Well, exactly. But I thought that was the point of art. I thought interpretation.
So what? I want to know what the little wormy things are. Is that?
I was thinking intestines, but
those aren't intestines.
But they're a little bit. Yeah, they're a little bit wormy for intestines, aren't they?
Yeah. Like, I was thinking, like, is it some kind of monster peen or?
Maybe there's a bunch of esophagus. Don't they have ridges?
Okay. Hey, so,
I'm more fascinated by the tree.
Well, you never just feel like your throat and feel the ridges on your throat. It's weird.
Stop talking. You're never coming back to the podcast.
No, I want her back.
Yeah, I would like. Yeah, do you guys think you want to do some more horror themed podcast just moving forward? Do you want to do some more just artsy podcasts? Because I like talking about horror. It's a fun starting point for it all, at least.
Yeah, I come from a state that a lot of horror movies are based off of, so yeah.
Wait, for real?
Okay, so...
There's a lot of...
I need to hear this tangent.
Alright, so in West Virginia...
I mean, yeah, it's not so much that, like, West Virginia specifically is a scary place. It's just that...
Oh, yeah, we have the little asylum. We've got this little, like, abandoned amusement park. But then we also have a running amusement park that's just full of just, like, decrepit old rides. Like, our roller coaster is on life support. And then we have Mothman, Flatwoods Monster. Yeah, and then we have a bunch of, like backwards stuff.
I was going to say, that there's also just, like, all of the redneck incest inbred horror.
Yeah, which, I honestly have not, I've met some people that I've had suspicions of because they just look like ass, but...
Well, and that's the thing about, like, a stereotype. There's not necessarily proof that it's a thing. It's just, it's the idea.
And also in the Silent Hill movie adaptation, it actually, instead of taking place in... Where did it take place in the games? Maine? Or am I thinking Stephen King?
A lot of Stephen King stuff takes place in Maine.
I cannot remember exactly what
state
Silent Hill is.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it's West Virginia, though.
Yeah.
In the movie, it takes place in West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, which is based off of a place, I think, in Pennsylvania. But if
I know about the town, but I don't know where it is. It's that town that is, in fact, on fire underneath it.
Yeah, it's always like... But if you go to West Virginia and you go to my hometown and you go in the morning, it's usually covered in fog, so it feels very Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And I lived near a cemetery, so yeah, it wasn't scary. It smelled bad.
Okay.
Well, the more you know.
We'll be putting up the stuff for Ace and I as well, so you know where to find us. Hope you guys like this, and I hope that Crypt TV will share this because I did fan art for them.
Yeah.
No sponsor, but sharing will be nice. Get them views. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.